The Elimination Chamber remains one of the most elaborate, over-the-top match concepts ever devised by WWE Creative, or in this case, Triple H, who came up with the gimmick back in 2002. The first chamber took place at that year's Survivor Series, with Shawn Michaels defeating Triple H and 4 other dudes to become World Heavyweight Champion. It became a full-on pay-per-view of its own right in 2010, and barring a quick break in 2016, WWE have presented an annual version ever since. Now, while Elimination Chamber has delivered its fair share of big moments over the years, it tends to promise more than it delivers. The match type is a little clunky, and the structure has been straight up dangerous at times, particularly during the early years. So with this year's Elimination Chamber looming, I'm Andy for WhatCulture Wrestling, and here are 10 things WWE regrets about Elimination Chamber. Number 10. Undermining the Raw Chamber in 2010. Elimination Chamber 2010 saw Raw's Sheamus defend his WWE Heavyweight title against Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase, Triple H, and the eventual winner, John Cena. It was one of the least interesting offerings in the stipulation's history and a real wet fart of a match, but that's not why it's on our list. The real problem came afterwards. Cena had just won the title and out came Vince McMahon, announcing an immediate title defense against Batista. Big Match John was handed over like fresh meat on a silver platter. The animal ate him up, and that was that. McMahon had repaid Batista's favor for helping him out in the Bret Hart feud, and Cena's reign was over before it really began. Now, Batista becoming champion wasn't exactly a problem in itself, as he was an excellent heel at the time, but the whole thing rendered an entire Elimination Chamber match pointless. The match's efforts served only to set up another Cena vs Batista clash for WrestleMania, and no one was overly happy about that. Number 9. Putting Jack Swagger over in 2013. Now, I don't want to rail too hard on Jack Swagger. He's an easy target and became a figure of ridicule towards the end of his tenure, having never really developed any charisma throughout his WWE run. But he was pretty underrated between the ropes, and someone who may have fared better in a promotion that didn't quite place such a high emphasis on quote-unquote being a character. But that being said, Swagger was absolutely not the right guy to win the 2013 Elimination Chamber. Royal Rumble winner John Cena was going to challenge WWE Champion The Rock twice in a lifetime and all that, leaving World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio without a WrestleMania opponent. Thus, they booked a chamber and the least interesting winner possible. Swagger defeated Kane, Mark Henry, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, and Daniel Bryan to take the victory in an underwhelming moment that WWE at least had the decency to book on the mid-card. And Swagger would go on to lose to Del Rio at WrestleMania 29. Number 8. The name. Kind of. At face value, Elimination Chamber is a pretty solid name, both for a match type and a pay-per-view. As far as the stipulation goes, it's a bunch of dudes inside a chamber getting themselves eliminated. So, yeah, Elimination Chamber. And as a pay-per-view name, it's exactly the kind of teenage-sounding cool that WWE always go for. So far, so good, and certainly no problems. But the name does cause issues in other non-English languages. This is particularly true in Germany, where WWE have had to change the name of the pay-per-view stipulation and the structure itself in order to avoid a major brand blunder because it summoned unwanted connotations with the gas chambers used during the Holocaust. So in Germany, you don't have Elimination Chamber, but No Escape, which honestly might be a better name in the first place. And obviously, they had to change the name in Germany because those aren't the kind of illusions a company of WWE's size needs. Number 7. The Intercontinental Chamber in 2015. Consider every Elimination Chamber match to take place over its 17-year lifespan, and 2015's Intercontinental title match is one of the absolute worst, despite featuring a handful of talented guys like Dolph Ziggler and Wade Barrett. The match was put together in order to find a new champion after Daniel Bryan was forced to vacate the belt after WrestleMania. And for lack of better phrasing, this bout is just a big, clunky piece of trash. It's a raging dumpster fire with no redeemable qualities, with a terribly boring first half bleeding into a second part so shambolic it led to many fans speculating that something had actually gone wrong with the layout and the wrestlers had been forced to improvise. Really badly. I might add. Something did go horribly wrong when Barrett accidentally twatted Mark Henry's pod door, forcing him into the match way ahead of schedule. And then there was Sheamus being a heel by using his necklace to jam his own door, thus delaying his entry, and the commentators failing to pick up on that at all. Nice work, lads. Nice work indeed. Number 6. Literally burning The Undertaker in 2010. A certified WWE legend and perhaps the most important gimmick of all time he may be, but The Undertaker was left looking nothing like the indestructible immortal dead man he plays on TV thanks to a colossal production cock-up at Elimination Chamber 2010. Undertaker was defending his World Heavyweight Championship against CM Punk, John Morrison, Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, and R-Truth in the titular main event. Unfortunately, the big slug was ambushed by a pyrotechnic disaster during his introduction. Flames went up when he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, burning Taker's jacket and the dead man himself, and forcing survival mode to kick in as Undertaker threw the coat to the ground and made a hasty retreat towards the ring. Taker was burned up pretty badly. He doused himself in cold water upon entering the chamber and kept doing so throughout the match, but looked to be in considerable discomfort. Then, after the match, he reportedly stopped on his way up the ramp, pointed at the pyro booth, and yelled at the poor unfortunate crew members working in it, and to be honestly, understandably so. Backstage officials had to calm down the zombified legend afterwards, and it remains one of the most embarrassing and dangerous production botches in WWE history. Number 5. Batista vs Alberto Del Rio. WWE made mistake upon mistake with Batista's return to the company. First, there was announcing him as a Royal Rumble participant rather than bringing him in as a big surprise on the night, which would have surely gone over a lot better. Then, of course, there was the Rumble win, with the audience absolutely destroying the animal for winning the match as a babyface at a time when Daniel Bryan's triumph was the one thing that everyone was looking for. By that point, Batista's babyface position had become untenable, but somehow WWE made it even worse when they booked him in a feud with Alberto Del Rio, a man who many were just completely indifferent to, culminating in a match at Elimination Chamber 2014, and boy, was it a disaster. Big Dave was destroyed by the crowd throughout. They jeered him heavily and serenaded him with unwanted chants of Boo-tista. Very clever, those guys, and to top it all off, Batista wrestled very much like a man who hadn't worked a meaningful singles match in 4 years. He was very, very rusty. It was a horrible experience, and one WWE would undeniably prefer was left in the past rather than being brought up by cheeky pricks like me on lists like this. Number 4. Undermining Braun Strowman. We all knew what was going to happen heading into Elimination Chamber 2018. Having missed out on a Royal Rumble victory, Roman Reigns was going to triumph in a big number 1 contenders match, thus earning the right to face Universal Champion Brock Lesnar, who many assumed he'd beat in a big WrestleMania 34 coronation. Now that coronation didn't happen, but Roman's Elimination Chamber win did, and it went down in one of the worst ways imaginable. Braun Strowman absolutely dominated the match. Entering second last, he destroyed everything in front of him in what would have gone down as one of the most impressive feats in the Monster Among Men's career, ambulance flips and all, had WWE not all over it a few moments later. 5 individual participants were eliminated by Strowman and his power slam. He looked great, and then he lost to Roman Reigns in just under 3 minutes. Cool. Everything he'd done throughout the bout was undone by the Superman Roman pulling his latest overcoming the odds stunt, and Braun hasn't really felt like a major level threat ever since. Number 3. The Tag Team Chamber from 2015. So, 2015 wasn't exactly a vintage year for chamber matches, and this hurricane of urine somehow outdid the Intercontinental title bout when it came to unspeakable badness, with a lineup comprised primarily of jobbers farting out one of the worst chambers ever. It was the New Day, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, the Primetime Players, Lucha Dragons, Los Matadores, and the Ascension. That's entirely too many people for a chamber, and so it transpired, with this clunky, crowded match full of horrible moments, ultimately boiling down to the New Day winning because, well, there was 3 of them and only 2 of everyone else. A terrible, terrible spot came about when good old Kalisto climbed up and across the chamber to try and steal the show with a big mental dive. But he took so long in clambering up the damn thing and monkey barring his way over that the divs below were forced to just stand around like fannies while he sorted himself out, only to be fallen on by the luchador, with JBL rightly shredding its dumbness on commentary. A terrible match, and to WWE's credit, at least they haven't done anything similar yeah, that's right. Good luck with that one. Number 2, burning Bill Goldberg, but not literally this time, at SummerSlam 2003. Goldberg's first WWE run failed for a myriad of reasons. WWE just ballsed so much of that Goldberg run up, and the man himself was so utterly fed up by the end, famously mailing it in with one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history against Brock Lesnar, during which both men were hit with mad X-Pac heat. But unfortunately, this journey down the rankings commenced at SummerSlam 2003, where he was booked in the second ever Elimination Chamber. Now, the expectation here was that Goldberg would win the whole damn thing. He was undefeated after all, and that was exactly how WCW had gotten him over back in the day, but after eliminating Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho in a matter of minutes, Goldberg was upset by Triple H, who else, who pinned him and retained the title. It was a classic example of WWE refusing to put one of Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff's guys over one of their own. Now, Goldberg did eventually become World Heavyweight Champion by beating Triple H at Unforgiven, but the damage was already done. Number 1, the Extreme Chamber from December to Dismember 2006. To be fair, the entire WWE CW December to Dismember pay-per-view was a grand disaster. It's one of the most unwatchable wrestling shows ever, and a night so devoid of charm and banter that it doesn't even qualify for so bad it's good status, and much of that is down to the Extreme Elimination Chamber. It was everything wrong with Vince McMahon's lame, diluted idea of what his ECW reboot should be. WWE peppered the structure with weapons because adding weapons immediately qualifies something as extreme apparently, and it all boiled down to a bunch of lame, lumbering WWE guys battling it out with each other and a grotesque piece of McMahon family trolling. A very green Bobby Lashley battled with an injured Big Show in the final 2. Popular newcomer CM Punk was eliminated disappointingly early, and ECW original Sabu was wiped out before he could even get into the bloody ring, allowing Hardcore Holly of all people to enter in his place. And besides all this, bloody Test was in this match. Test! And he eliminated Rob Van Dam of all people. None of this represented anything the live crowd had paid to see, and it absolutely stunk.